Not really an optimal combo, but fuck it. I'm out of practice with this dude. Anyway, first of all, I mean, I got asked to make a talk about a video about the progression of characters like SOL and CHIPP, and I actually wasn't going to do it, but I guess I got asked. Of course, if you like the videos, like, sub, comment, whatever. It doesn't cost you anything. It helps the channel, blah, 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 blah. So, first of all, though, to address some of the criticism that I saw some people, when the video got shared, I saw some people talking shit like, oh, Clayton says he would add stuff to Kai, even though he just said Kai was oversaturated. I think people were not actually listening to what I was talking about. I was talking about in this game, sometimes, and in video games in general, sometimes when you give a character too many options, the character starts to have shades of other characters as well, and it makes characters not feel as unique, right? And so with Kai, besides the moral, I have a little bit of moral issues with Kai, I think, even though I do like how he plays in this game, but there's potential moral issues. But when I was talking about how I would change Kai, I was saying Kai, you actually could add something to him though, because when you're adding something like if you added that shock state, whatever it's called in the new Strive, that's something that only Kai has. No other character needs to have a thing called shock state. And that makes Kai unique. So even though the character and many characters in this game feel potentially oversaturated with so many moves, and maybe they start to have shades, and like I said, Guilty Gear, as the series progressed, it became just an anime game in a negative way in terms of I just knock you down into my bullshit and you got to block for the next 5 seconds, whatever. Kai is a character that you could actually progress the idea of Kai because it's an actual gimmick, right? Just like the character of SOL in this game, Sidewinder clean hits is a gimmick that no other character has to have. It's special and unique to SOL, right? These kind of gameplay elements, no other character needs to have this shade of color to them. It's uniquely that character, and it makes the character feel special, right? But one of the reasons I said I didn't really care about SOL in this game is though I do, I like the Sidewinder stuff, all that kind of stuff. I think it's fun. But a lot of the new stuff, when I talk about the oversaturation of some characters, is what are these moves doing? What does that move do? What does this move do? You know what I mean? These are just like, if these feel like Mugen moves to me, right? These feel like the developer just gave, their son or their daughter the game, like, hey, what else would you add to SOL? And you're like, oh, I would add a dumb reach move. It's like, but he already has the Sidewinder. Yeah, but this is an EX Sidewinder, so it always clean hits. That feels boring. That feels like a Mugen move. Just like this move. What does this do? Oh, it's like, oh, I guess, I guess you could do something like this, and then boom. And it's like, I guess you could do that, but then at the end of the day, you know what? It's just like, kind of like, oh, I fucked it up. I'm sorry. That just clean hits anyway, and that does more life. Just like when I did this mid-screen version. That just does more life. The Grand Viper skip combos are still SOL's optimal combos. And if I'm not that good at them anymore because I just am out of practice, but if people think I did crazy combos with Kai, you should have seen the shit I could do with SOL back in the day. You think all those Grand Viper skips, some of those instant kill combos back in the day in the original AC, I've done those in real matches, all those Grand Viper skip combos actually. Trust me. That shit you can actually do. Mid-screen, you know what I mean? The Grand Viper skip stuff. Definitely possible. And the thing is, when you're thinking about the game optimally speaking, these new dumb reaches, they add nothing to the character. That doesn't add it. It's just a dumb reach. Like at least Fafnir, and I know they added this. It's like, oh, but now SOL has this, which is a combo. I don't care. That's not interesting. This isn't adding something really new to the character to make him different. It's not interesting to me. I don't care about this into this. You know what? At least in the original AC, when he had Fafnir to, this, it's like, oh, I see the purpose of this move. It actually does, like, legitimate block damage. And that's one of the things I've talked about that I think is actually the problem of Guilty Gear. I think in a game with FD, this game could have more moves that do a lot of block damage like that, right? Like, I don't care that this move, oh, but it does clean hits, and you can do that glitch that I showed off when the game first came about, instantly killing the guy with the move. That's not interesting to me. I don't care about that, right? So anyway, and even he has shit like this. It's like, oh, but they added this. This shit isn't interesting. So basically, generally speaking, SOL just wasn't interesting to me in this game because what they gave him were Mugen moves. They were oversaturation moves. They weren't changing the idea of Soul as a character, so it wasn't interesting. Whereas Kai in this game, Kai felt like they were fleshing him out. Kai felt like even though he's potentially oversaturated, they felt like they were fleshing him out in this game. And you could still potentially add stuff to Kai because you could give him that shock state, because it's actually a progression of the character that no other character needs to have, right? So whereas Accent Core Plus R, besides the fact that I just barely ever fucking play video games in the first place, it's like, why do I need to play Soul besides I'll just make a combo video for him when I'm bored, right? Just like stuff like this. Yeah, it has a clean hit now, but you know what? Back in AC when he had this and then you could do the Grand Viper skips into it, I've done that in real matches, dude. You can definitely fucking do that, right? And I know he had that ghetto loop with it, but, you know, you could always just do a Grand Viper skip, you know. Doing a Grand Viper skip off that is not very realistic in this version of the game, but... So it just wasn't interesting to me. So what would I actually do with Soul if I was trying to progress Soul? I would actually just make Soul best of both worlds, right? So, you know, give him his Fafnir from Xrd, right? And then give it the version of this, of AC, right? So the Fafnir from Xrd, and then add the super off of this, right? You know what I mean? It does block damage like that. You know what I mean? His dive kick. Make his dive kick in Xrd. Make that his EX move in this game. Boom. It's his EX move in this game, right? Maybe his Riot Stomp, you could give his Riot Stomp from Xrd as well. And, you know, maybe when he's in Dragon Install, you know how he has this in this game. Maybe he has the dive kick from Xrd, of course, but it's always like that then when you're in Dragon Install. You could add that, you know what I mean? Mix and match ideas of Soul that actually make him interesting. Not just making him I gave Billy, my son, and my daughter the game, add a new move. And they're like, oh, you could add this, it always clean his. Oh, you could add this. These are just dumb reaches. They're not really adding anything to the character, right? And clean hit stuff is interesting, though. And so keep, you know, the Sidewinder stuff. And I would, though, because I've talked about it, because the Dust Loop is actually what saved Guilty Gear. Watch those game theory videos that I've talked about it. I know in this version of the game, you know, he can do a couple loops of the Dust Loop. I would be a little bit more lenient and let him be able to do like 3 loops of it. Add another loop because I think it's important for the character as well, actually. So really, Soul, what I would do, mix and match the best of both worlds of Soul. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. Riot Stomp from XR as well, that kind of stuff. But get rid of these Mugen moves that add no fucking purpose to the character. This shit is boring as hell. I don't give a fuck about this. This is stupid. These are Mugen moves. Oversaturation that add nothing. And Chip, what I've talked about, what I would do with Chip is, although I do think Chip is cool because ninjas are cool, and there's a lot of goodwill in Guilty Gear, for what it's worth, you know, he's a cool character. I don't actually, when I think about the grand scheme of fighting games, I don't think Chip is super interesting in this game, again, when you're thinking about the grand scheme of games. But I actually really do think Chip is interesting in Xrd because the whole how he jumps off the wall stuff, great progression of the character of Chip, I think. And I like how Strive, how they got rid of teleports, but then they basically made the Ninja Dash his teleport now. I think all that stuff is awesome. Just like King of Fighters, not every King of Fighter character has an EX character. I definitely think for Chip, when you're talking about the progression of Chip, put in an Xrd Chip, put in a Strive Chip. They're fucking fantastic. They're both progressions of what a ninja character can be, and they have attributes to them that no other character needs to have. They're interesting, right? Just like Johnny. Johnny's a fantastic character. Put in a regular kind of Johnny, like the normal idea of Johnny, and put in a Johnny of Revelator, right? They're both different enough, but they feel special, right? So I think you could do that for Guilty Gear too. Not every character needs to have an EX character, but just like King of Fighters, how some characters feel unique enough that they deserve an EX character, I think characters like Chip, like Johnny, could have an EX character because I think they're interesting. But anyway, I wasn't actually going to make this video, but just because people asked me to make this video because I just didn't really know what to say about Soul because I just really don't think he's that interesting in this game. But anyway, in the end, support the channel. Thanks.